Hi, I'm Emma Sutherland, clinical naturopath, author, mum, and your host. With over 20 years in clinical practice, I've helped thousands of women and their families transform their health using evidence-based integrative strategies. This channel is your go-to for trusted insights, expert conversations, and those practical tools that really support real-life wellness. Welcome to today's episode where we shine a light on midlife health and holistic well-being. I'm thrilled to welcome Anna Klara Skarp, a registered nurse and a certified health coach. With a strong background in critical care and a passion for women's health, Anna Klara empowers women navigating through perimenopause and menopause with evidence-based, compassionate coaching. Perimenopause is a pivotal life phase for many Australian women, including myself. Consider these statistics. There are almost 7 million women in Australia experiencing perimenopause or menopause, and up to 25% of them endure moderate to severe symptoms that significantly impact their quality of life. Moreover, a recent Australian study found that 37.3% of women in late perimenopause report moderate to severe hot flushes and night sweats, underscoring the intensity of the experience for many. And that is just the tip of the iceberg. Anna Klara's work brings clarity, support, and personalized guidance to women, often navigating this transformative period feeling confused, unheard, or unsupported. Let's dive in and explore her unique approach. Anna Klara, welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Emma, for having me.
Pleasure. Now, I would love it if you could share what led you from critical care nursing into perimenopause health coaching, and also how your nursing background really helped shape your current work.
So it's a bit of a transition, right, from critical care to perimenopause and menopause, but it's one that feels really right for me. And so I started in intensive care, and I've always been very passionate about my nursing and health. And I thought critical care was going to be the place for me. But after a few years, I started to notice that I wasn't really getting the satisfaction that I was hoping to get from my nursing. And I couldn't quite pinpoint it and figure out what it was. But I realized that actually the medical system, we just patch things up and let people get on the way, and I never see them again. And that didn't sit right with me. I realized that I want to be on the preventative health side instead, where I can prevent people from ending up in ICU, hopefully. And I like those long-term relationships with my clients and patients and establishing those sort of relationships. And you don't get that in intensive care. So I then seeked to do something outside of ICU, and I just ended up in cosmetic nursing. And it wasn't even meant to be and I was going to go into. But I understand now in hindsight why. And it's because it gave me access to women and getting in contact with women and hearing their stories. And as a cosmetic nurse, I take their health history. I need to work out what's happening with them, not just on the physical level, but also internal health as well. And I realized that women were struggling, right? So I see a lot of mid 40s to 50s, 55, and they're on antidepressants, they're on anti-anxiety medications, they are not feeling good about themselves. So I'm thinking, what's going on here? Why are they not on hormones? Because they're clearly perimenopause. And so that discussion came up a lot with my patients. And I realized that's what I want to work with, because women, up until now, it's changing, luckily, but women have not been educated in this area. And also, I think getting into that age myself and starting to notice a few things changing, that's just how it all happened. And I'm so happy to be in this space now. So, yeah, still doing a little bit of intensive care, but I'm more towards the health coaching and the nursing in the perimenopausal space. And then also to then give me a little bit more tools how to work with women outside of a hospital system, I thought, what can I do then? So that's how I found health coaching. And it really ties in beautifully with nursing because it really is how we should be working with our patients. Health coaching is not me telling my patients what to do, it's working with them. I'm the co pilot, I'm just there to facilitate their journey. I help them find their values as to why to change, because we know that change usually will only happen when it's really intrinsic and coming from that inner motivation. So it's not because your doctor told you so. It's because you want to change, because perhaps you want to be traveling as an 80-year-old. So how do I get there? That's how I then ended up doing health coaching as well.
Yeah, it's such an interesting path that's evolved for you because it's almost now like you've got the perfect skill set to be working with women in this life stage. You've got the full medical understanding. You've seen how the medical system, it's great for acute care, but not so good at preventative care. So then
Mm.
changing that to working with women in that more holistic way, it's just A, rewarding, and B, really what's needed for women, I
Yeah,
think.
absolutely. I couldn't agree more. A nurse's role is to educate as well. And that's what I find is going really with the health coaching is some patients will need a bit of education. Some patients will come in and they will know perfectly well what to do. They just need a little bit of tweaking or help with planning or strategizing, etc. I think that's where we need to be.
Yeah. And I always say people don't wake up in the mornings and say, I'm going to make a terrible decision for my health today and then go and do it. It's purely that we make the best kind of decisions with the information we have at the time. And so having that passion around education, I share that with you as well. And I think that's so important in this life stage because there's many common misunderstanding or gaps in knowledge around perimenopause. So are there any that you see more commonly? And then how do you help people navigate them?
Yeah. There are definitely some misunderstandings and gaps in knowledge. And I think one we're steering away from now that is becoming more clear is that hormone replacement therapy, as we deliver it today, does not increase your for breast cancer, for instance. That's a really huge one. Another one, I can't take HRT because I've still got my cycle. That's not
Yeah.
correct either. So perimenopause, and this is another misunderstanding, is it can go on for up to 10 years prior to your actual menopause day. And so that can happen from your 40s. I started actually in my late 30s experiencing some symptoms. So getting women to understand that, because then they start to look out for the symptoms and then can seek help appropriately and won't just go for the antidepressants or the anti-anxiety medications or just put up with it. So I think we're doing a much better job now. I think in the last couple of years, there's been a great advocacy within this space. So women are now much more equipped. Like even when I started a few years back, I think women know a lot more now. And
Uh,
that's a trajectory we need to be on.
yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I'm currently nearly 52 and around the age of 43, 44, I started becoming anemic. And even though I work with women in this space, even though I'm a naturopath,
Yeah.
it wasn't until my doctor said to me, Emma, this is the second iron infusion that you've needed. Maybe we better think about why you're having such heavy periods. And
Yeah.
so I did further investigations, some MRIs, and then lo and behold, I had adenomyosis, which is like the bitchy cousin of endometriosis. And my periods were horrendously heavy, but I don't know. I just got used to them because it happened gradually. And it was at such, I remember an aha moment for me when I
Yeah.
was like, oh my God, this is perimenopause. This is my perimenopause symptom here. And I started on Prometrium at that point to control the heavy bleeds. And it worked so well for me. And that was the last iron infusion I ever needed because I no longer experienced the really heavy flooding, clotty bleeds that I was getting during that time. But It goes to show that even if somebody like myself can miss the obvious symptoms. So it's no wonder that perimenopause needs to be talked about more, but we also need to understand that perimenopause can involve so many body systems. It's not just hormones. And looking at all the amazing research coming out around how estrogen affects our brain health and the increased anxiety and depression levels around the changing estrogen is profound. And that came to mind to me when you talked about women just being on anti anxiety or antidepressants, because it's a very common theme I see in clinic as well.
Sure.
We are medicated in that way instead of actually thinking, hang on, what's the bigger picture? What's actually going on here for this woman?
Yeah, absolutely. And not just you, Emma, but Dr. Louise Newson in England, who's a very big menopause advocate and doctor, she said the same thing. She actually had no idea that it was menopause or perimenopause that she was going through, and she's a GP. So
Yeah.
it it happens to all of us. It's hard to be objective sometimes as well. I hope with this education that women can take a bit more care and thoughts around what am I going through, also feel more empowered so that they can go to the GP and say, I believe this is perimenopause. I've never been anxious before. Why am I anxious now? There's nothing in my life that is making me anxious. It's just a feeling that I have. And rather than just going, okay, just take these anti-anxiety tablets, let's start you off on hormones. It's
Mm.
far better than taking antidepressants or anti-anxiety medications. So obviously always consult with your GP about that. Hopefully this is a good step forward.
Yeah, agreed. And so tell us about your average client that comes in to see you. What are they experiencing? What's going on for them?
So I would say my average is between 45 and 50. So they've got probably, if they have children, very often teenage kids. They may also have elderly parents that they're looking after. So they're juggling work, family, aging parents, all of that, and work as well. They're often quite senior because of their age. They've established a career. And so there's just all these factors in life. And they don't know what's going on, but it feels like they're falling apart. They feel like their
Yeah.
lives are falling apart. They're fatigued. They've got brain fog. They've got changes in weight. So they're doing all the normal things they've always done, but all of a sudden they've got this midsection weight gain that they haven't had before. And nothing they try works. So they used to fast and lose a few kilos. That doesn't work anymore. And I think a lot of women just feel like they're losing themselves. Where did Anna Klara go?
Yeah.
I'm irritable all of a sudden. I'm snapping at my children. And those, I think those are the most common things, along with sleep issues and the fatigue and the brain fog. So it's not actually like hot flushes, which is probably what
Mm.
most people associate it with. That's not always the most common thing that I hear. It's a bit of loss of self. Who is this person? I don't recognize myself anymore. So that's probably my average patient.
Yeah, I can really have a lot of empathy being in this same life stage myself. It can be completely overwhelming to wake up and feel like your body's not behaving, your mind's not behaving. Nothing is familiar about yourself anymore. It feels very confusing. And then women start second guessing themselves, and then they can be gaslit by either the people around them or healthcare. They can be gaslit around, you're just busy, it's anxiety, here, take this medication. So I love that you have this very holistic view of a woman. I think that's so important. And when you're thinking about either tools or frameworks, what do you use to introduce to help women feel a little bit more grounded or empowered?
So it depends on the person that I have in front of me. And that's the beauty of health coaching is I meet the person where they're at. Some women, like I said before, are very educated. They're very aware. They know they're already tracking the cycles, etc. And some women have just no idea. And that's
Mm.
okay. So I start off with checking in with the woman in front of me and seeing what they might need. And very often we'll just start with awareness of your body, where you're at. If they have not tracked their cycle, then that's a good way to
Mm.
start. Is tracking your cycle. I do Lois Newson's Balance app. got the symptom tracker. She's got lots of good information. She has built communities on there as well, so women can talk to each other. And then she's got her evidence-based information on there as well. So that's a good way to start. Then I like to look at the nervous system, because if our nervous system is heightened, then everything else is going to follow, right, in that manner. So if a woman has a very stressful lifestyle, they've got high cortisol, there's no good in going and doing HIIT classes 3 times a week and trying to eat less to lose your weight. No, we need to get back into that parasympathetic nervous system and rest and digest. And so we can lower that cortisol. So I like to look at that as well. So that would then go back to basics and doing some breathing exercises and those sort of maybe just some quiet walks 3 times a day. Then we can look at layering it with evidence-based habits like how much protein you should have, what type of exercise you should be doing. And then there's tracking devices for that as well, whether it's your Aura Ring or your Apple Watch or your Garmin or what have you. People like to track differently. And so some people like pen and paper. And so we use that as a tracking system. Some people just like to have it all digitally on their phones, whatever suits the person, right? But I think what we forget is we like to make it all fancy, and we like to have our, what is it called? The peptides. Oh, should I be taking peptides? Should I be taking all these supplements? And I was maybe just let's look at the basics first. What is your sleep like? What is your daily habits? What is your cortisol levels like? And you don't need to have a test to find what your cortisol levels are like. You can just check in with yourself. So keeping it quite simple to start with and then start to layering it. That's usually how I do it.
Yeah, I love the framework on that purely because there is a lot of white noise in this space on social media. There's a lot of things we should be doing. And it's almost a case of, at times, information overload, almost that paralysis by analysis. We just get so overwhelmed with all the things we should be doing, but yet we feel so stuck. And I love the fact that you're stripping it all right back and covering those foundational elements, because essentially we can't build a house on a shaky foundation, and really dialing everything back to those levels are so important. So important. And all the other fancy stuff, that's the 5% on top.
Yeah.
But the 95% is really focusing on that foundation. I couldn't agree with you more on that side of things. And perimenopause, it comes with these emotional shifts and identity shifts that we alluded to. How do you support clients beyond just the physical? Because it's so much more than that.
Absolutely. I like to try and focus on helping women to reconnect themselves and really find what their values are. And they might think they know what their values are, but when you actually start peeling off the layers, they are maybe exactly the opposite of what they thought they were. And I think with age, if we could reframe the whole midlife framework or the ideas of what it's like to be in midlife, I think a lot of people think of it quite negatively. But I'd
Yes.
like to reframe that into a positive strength. Look at these women who have got this whole life experience. They've raised children, they've had careers, they're caring for elderly parents. They have a wisdom that you don't have naturally as a 20, 30, or even an early 40-year-old. And if we can look at that and find a positive way of looking at middle age, I think that would be lovely. It's not the end. It's not the end, right? It's a new beginning. It's not, yes, we are maybe not youth anymore. It's end of youth, but that means we are born into something else, opening a new chapter. And I think that is very exciting. And so not to fear what's ahead of us. And if we do look after ourselves, we can live well for a long time. And that's my value, is I want to be able to, I have family over in Sweden. So I want to be able to jump on a plane when I'm 80 years old to go back there and see my family or do other types of travels. So let's find the joy, let's find the positives, let's skip that negative self-talk and let's start a new chapter.
I love that. It's so much more empowering. And
Mm.
I was recently reading some research around the grandma hypothesis around menopause. So, why do we end ovulation and why do we enter this phase when no other species in the world actually ends their fertility and have an extended life beyond that? I think we're about the only one. And that philosophy or the theory of the grandma hypothesis is that at that life stage, our role is to really use our wisdom and our knowledge to then help care for the next generation so that the human species can continue to evolve. And I really feel that revered place of a wise and older woman really needs to be put back up from a societal perspective. And I think that reframe of it's a new beginning, it's a new chapter. We have so much to offer and so much to give back. That really feels great to reframe it in that way. Instead of it's a loss of something, it's the gain of so much.
Absolutely. I think there's even research actually showing that the brain is rewiring itself after menopause and restructuring itself. It's going to have new pathways and different pathways that it didn't have before. And with that, hopefully comes that wisdom.
Yeah. And I was looking at your Instagram and I was having a little a happy giggle because you really speak openly about embracing your evolving body and your skin through midlife. How do you help women shift that kind of frustration to that sort of self acceptance through perimenopause?
Uh,
Because we
um,
can't go back to looking how we looked when we were 30. It's impossible.
we can't. So I've struggled with that myself. So I've really had to work on that. And it is about reframing again, seeing your body not as a problem to fix, but as something that's carried you through life, right?
Mm.
So for me, it's been like I've had 3 children. I do my push-ups and I look down. It doesn't look quite the same down there as it used to. I try and pull my stomach in, but it's a bit of skin hanging there. Okay, I've had 3 children. Let's focus on that. Being a bit more kinder to ourselves and not feeling like we have to push through and punish our bodies all the time. We can try and celebrate our wins instead of going, oh, I've lost weight. We look at how did you sleep last night? How are you feeling when you're putting your clothes on? What are you doing to feel good about yourself? Because when we feel good about ourselves, our body is going to thank us for it. Because apparently, your body hears every thought that goes on in your head. And so, if we can have positive self talk, that's going to encourage the whole body to have less inflammation because we're lowering the cortisol levels and we're going to feel better, right? So, inflammation equals aging. So,
Yeah.
the less inflammation we can have in our body, the better we're going to feel. And as a cosmetic nurse, I am all about making you feel good in your own skin. Pardon the pun. But that looks different for every woman. And it's not for me to say. I'm here to facilitate what you need. And that is up to you. So if that means someone needs something to help with collagen to tighten their skin, or they might really want to get rid of this frown line here, I can help with that. Because if they feel better when they look themselves in the mirror, their body's going to thank them for it and they're going to feel better in life in general. So it's not about vanity. I always say, we decorate houses. We like nice environments. Why wouldn't we like to look at something nice like ourselves, right?
Mm.
We put on nice clothes. We paint our nails. We like to look at aesthetically pleasing things. So looking after your skin is just a part of that. And like I said, actually, if we can avoid having inflammation in the skin, we're avoiding internal inflammation as well.
Think
Goes hand in hand.
it does. And that message on inflammation is so important. The aging that happens with inflammation is insane, and I think a lot of women don't realize that. What I would love to know though is what 3 micro habits you recommend for women during perimenopause. I want to take these on board, so I'm listening very closely here.
There are so many. I went to a conference, and one thing that I took away from there was exercise snacking. And it's not maybe what you think. It's Angela Kwong, who's a GP, and she has really beautiful weight loss programs specifically for women at this age, but she works with all women and men of all ages. Exercise snacking is you're sitting at your desk, you've been sitting for a couple of hours, it's time to move a little bit, and it doesn't have to be out for a big walk. It can be simple things like doing this with your arms for a few minutes, standing up at your desk, doing 10 squats. If you have a desk that can raise up, you can do calf raises. And research has shown that lowers your blood sugar. So it's going to help with maintaining a more steady blood sugar level. And that's going to help you in your energy levels. It's going to help you, obviously, with your weight, etc. So I think that's something that is free. You can do it anywhere at any time. And you can join in if you like. You can ask your colleagues to join in. So I think that's a really lovely thing. So exercise snacking.
Mhm.
And then I think another thing, because we've been talking about cortisol levels and lowering that, taking a few minutes a day to just sit and breathe. And again, it's free. You can do it anywhere. I sometimes, if I'm working and I have nowhere else to go, I go into the bathroom and I just sit on the toilet and I take a few extra minutes and I just do a few minutes of deep breathing. And that will then lower my cortisol. I feel more in my body and it creates other awarenesses as well. And I would say when you wake up in the morning, if you can expose yourself to some sunlight, we can raise the blinds, open the windows, sit on the balcony, go out in the courtyard, even better, go for a little walk. If you can do that, you're going to help your circadian rhythm. So you're actually going to produce your melatonin at a better time and help you sleep at night. So good sleep starts in the morning when you wake up.
Love that expression. So you've given us the micro habits of exercise snacking. I think that's such a great way of looking at it. It takes that all or nothing out of the exercise picture. The deep breathing to help regulate those cortisol levels, and then getting some sunlight in the morning. So not the light from your phone. We're talking about actual sunlight. Stay off those screens first thing in the morning and get some sunlight in the morning. I think that they are very accessible micro habits that people can implement, and you don't need to pay for a single one of them.
Exactly. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah. And looking ahead, in the forecast of what perimenopause is going to look like, what do you think is going to evolve in Australia? And where do you see the role of holistic health coaching going? What would you love to see in 5 years' time?
I think I would like the whole topic of menopause just to be normalized, that it's not something we always need to talk about, but normalizing it as in it's just a part of life and to every woman. And I want all specialties because menopause doesn't belong to one specialty. It belongs to everyone in healthcare, from your dentist to your chiropractor, to your endocrinologist, to your GP, and everything in between because it affects the whole body. So I would love to see the medical field really taking responsibility and upskilling themselves so that if you go for whatever reason to see your cardiologist, they are going to be aware of menopause and perimenopause and the effect on the body. You go to your dentist, they'll know what's happening. And so normalizing it that way, that this is just a part of the journey of being a woman, right? And all disciplines should know about it. I think we need to really get better at that. And I would like more equity. So we've got hormone replacement therapy on the PBS now, which is lovely because it's more accessible for women. Because we have low socioeconomic groups of people in Australia, and unfortunately, they are still not accessing the help. So we have a huge cohort of women who are still just living through this on their own with no help. And that can go for rural women as well, because they may not have access to the healthcare that we have in the in the city. So getting better at that, I think, is very important. And for the workplace to acknowledge what's happening to the woman at this time, because I can't tell you, Emma, how often I hear of women who have actually left their jobs because they couldn't stand in a board meeting and
Yeah.
speak in front of often men, having a hot flush, not find the words.
I literally had a patient a couple of weeks ago in that exact situation. And that's why she came to see me. She said, I can't do this and also do my job. So it's, yeah, I hear that it's very challenging in the workplace.
Yeah. So if we can educate our beautiful opposite sex, the male population, and so that they can feel a bit better equipped as well, because it's hard when you don't know what's happening. How can I help you? And I don't think, I know we've been given a week of menopause leave. It's not about that, because it's not happening over 1 week. That's not going to help. It's cyclical, like it goes up and down. It's erratic. And it's
Yeah.
just understanding that to start with is going to help finding empathy as to what's going on, I think. So we can get better at that.
Yeah, there's some really good points that you've raised there on what you'd like to see. The point around every health practitioner needs to understand how menopause affects their specialty is absolutely critical, because people still think that you just need to go and see an endocrinologist or your gynae, and that's who you go and see. And it's that simplistic. It is not that simplistic. This is whole body medicine that we need to bring on board with this. So, any last thoughts for us? We could talk about this all day. It's such a compelling topic. We are both in this space personally and professionally. So, of course, we are very passionate about it. Any last thoughts for us, or any myths that you want to bust for us today?
I think one of the myths that has been spoken about a lot is the breast cancer one. So I think we're coming through that one now, which I'm really pleased about. Another one is, if I've got my period, then I can't take HRT. Not
Yeah.
true. I have my period. I still need estrogen and progesterone. That's fine. We diagnose it based on symptoms. So it doesn't have to be by a blood test, because your estrogen and progesterone goes up and down, estrogen mostly up and down. And it depends when you take your blood test, if it's
Yeah.
up or down. So that's not a good, I can't find the word now, but that's not how we diagnose it. And you don't have to put up with it. You can actually do something about it, because I think a lot of women still feel like, oh, I just go through it. And also, I want to be natural
Yeah.
and I don't want to take anything. Let me tell you, Panadol's not very natural. And I'm sure most people take a Panadol with a headache. They're not body identical hormones. They're the same structure as the ones you produce. You actually couldn't take anything much more natural than that. If you think you're better than someone else just because you want to be natural.
Yeah. And I think every woman has to run her path in whatever
Absolutely.
way. But I think the most important thing is that we gather a team around us, a good GP, whether it's a good health coach or a good naturopath, or just gather a team around you that can help keep you informed of the research, what's going on, best practice, all those kind of things is super important.
Absolutely.
Now, if people want to reach out to you, where can they find you? We will put the links in the show notes, but where can people find you?
So you can find me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is AK Aesthetica. So that was the name of my cosmetic business.
Yeah.
But now that I have ventured out and I do more holistic work and health coaching and menopause, I am AK Nordic Wellness on my website. It's called AK Nordic Wellness. So you can find me there as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your words of wisdom.
Thank you so much, Emma. It was lovely to talk to you. And I love what you are doing in this space as well. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Anna Klara.
Thank you.
Thanks for being with me today. Don't forget to like this video, hit that subscribe button. Check out all the links in the show notes for more health empowering information.